Welcome to Business Mastery with Dawn Kennedy, your quick under 45-minute dose of expert insights and strategies to make a positive impact on your business and life. Let's get started. All right, hello, and welcome to the Business Mastery Podcast. So today we're going to be talking about a little bit of a different model. We're going to be talking about e-commerce in a new and different way, not just you selling from your website, maybe to people 4 states away. So I have Neil on here. We're going to explore this topic and answer some questions. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on, Dawn. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to have this conversation. Can you tell us who you are and who you serve?
Yeah, in simple terms, I sell products on Amazon. We have 21 brands that we manage within our structure. So I am a seller first and foremost. We run a number of different brands across the different segment, all across different segments of Amazon. I serve people who are interested in kind of taking the next step. Typically, when people get involved in what we're doing, there's a kind of a crossing in their lives where they're maybe investigating, thinking about the next step. They're like, well, I might be retiring in 10 or 20 years. I kind of don't want to do what I'm doing in 10, 20 years. That could literally be somebody who's working a high-end engineering job, or I've got doctors or dentists or other professionals in here who are like, I don't want to do that for another 20 years. How can I take my time and energy and attention and money and leverage it a new way? And so they'll come and they'll say, hey, could you help train? Can you mentor? Can you kind of build us forward? And that's kind of where we stepped into with our operators, is helping individual operators over 12 months, aspiring entrepreneurs stand up their business, or existing entrepreneurs optimize their business for an exit in 4 to 5 years. So working on each of those sides, we kind of help people in their growth and scale and to their exit. And I got into that about 12 years ago when I started flipping products for profit on Amazon, right? I was finding products, buy low, sell high, doing a little arbitrage. When someone told me about it and said, hey, you should sell on Amazon. And my first response was, well, I don't want to, if it's anything like eBay, I don't want to touch it.
Right.
I don't want to ship products. I don't want to do it out of my house. I don't want to do all these things. I don't want the returns. I don't want to deal with any of that. They said, no. There's this thing called Fulfilled by Amazon. It's this, they call it FBA. It's a system of logistics and movement and products and all this stuff. And it's going to be really big. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I looked at it and I'm like, oh, that creates a whole lot of automation. So I'm cool with that, because I was previously like more in digital marketing, lead generation, and more digital products, and touching physical products and shipping them was just not on my radar. I didn't want it to fill up my house. I didn't want all that stuff. But when they said you can ship it all into Amazon and they'll take care of that for you, I'm like, okay, let me take a deeper look at this, and eventually got into private label. As we flipped products and kept running into trouble trying to get more product. And had a product that go well. And actually we were just borrowing somebody else's brand to do it anyways, which is really no value. And it's sort of still trading time for money, kind of like I was doing before. I said, how do I build this intrinsic value? And the word private label came to me, and I was like, well, what the heck is that? And is it like a white label? What is it? And they're like, no, it's customization. It's building something of your own. It's taking something in demand and creating your version of it and then giving it back to the market where there's already demand. And I was like, oh, well, that's a simple concept. I can grasp that. So we did that. And it actually, the first product I found, I was up late one night. I have 4 daughters, and they were all born within 5 years of each other. So, we had all these toddlers in our house. And, my wife, God bless her, she was stay-at-home mom at that point and taking care of all these kids. And so I'm on night owl anyway. So I'm up at like 4 a.m. in the morning feeding our third child a bottle and trying to keep her quiet so she doesn't wake the house up. And up pops this infomercial. And there's this infomercial for this thing called Seat Pets. And I'm like, oh, what is that? And it was this doll-like pet head thing that attached to the seatbelt. And then the kid would lay on it and it'd have crowns. And it was just super cute. And these pictures, I'm like, oh, I want to get one of those. And immediately snapped out of this, conditioning. I was like, no, I could sell one of those. I got to start thinking like I could actually sell one of those. So we went back and we prototyped a brand because there was clearly demand. There was an infomercial. You have to spend like $500,000 to run an infomercial, even if it goes off at like 4 a.m. So I'm like, they're spending some serious money. I wonder if we can do it. Amazon shows their product, but it looks really bad. Like maybe there's an opportunity. So we did a Hail Mary pass and threw up, 2,000 units. I put my half on a credit card, and I think my partner did as well. And we created Belt Buddies. So we created our own brand called Belt Buddies, and we just tweaked and innovated it just a little bit. All we wanted to do is get in front of that existing demand and see if we could sell one that was already on the system. And so we just innovated, we changed up the faces, made them look a little more anime. We changed up the body and made them a little more plush. We changed up the stitching to make them a little stronger, and we changed up the holes on the sleeve to make it easier for like crowns and more stuff to stick into, right? And we sold all 2,000 units in 8 weeks organically. We just put them in the system, and all that inbound traffic, we were hooked. So it was every product to the wall after that to see what kind of private label customization we could do, and ran out all these additional products. And that brand, along with a kitchen brand we launched called Auntie M's Kitchen, we went to about 7 figures by 2014, 2015, and we were hooked. So then it was just game on, right? Playing the physical private label brand world, which I've become in love with, passionate about product development.
Amazing. So you did the prototyping of the product and you proved all the things, and you didn't have a garage full of product then?
No, contacted a manufacturer. They did the prototypes for us. I still have the original dolls. My daughter still has them in their beds of the penguin, the anime character look. And they shipped those to Amazon directly. We never touched them after we touched the samples.
Okay. So once you ship them to Amazon, then Amazon does everything from that magic moment of
They do a lot.
it.
Yeah, there's a big engine running inside of this system, right? And most importantly, before I get to that, there was the component of making sure it was profitable. As we discovered this product in a conditional environment of learning how to move from the consumer brain to the producer brain, which I still think a lot of people who think they're producers act like consumers.
Yeah.
If you think like a producer, you think, okay, how can I market, sell that, and meet the demand of a product? But then I remember, well, they don't get the product until 2 days after they buy it. So if they buy it on Amazon, it's taking them 2 days to get the product. It'll take them another 2 to 7 days to decide what to do, if they like it, if it doesn't break, if they think it's great, if they might leave a review in the first 10 or 20 days. They're going to enjoy the product. But in actuality, they didn't buy the product, did they? They bought the solution. They bought the outcome. They bought the belief that that product would solve a solution for them, a problem, an opportunity, a threat, a safety issue. So when we realized that along the way, we realized, well, what we're really selling is data. We're selling marketing. We're selling an experience. And if we start to focus more on that and then focus on the product, we got our cart and horse in the right order. I think a lot of people get their cart before their horse, thinking about the product, but not actually how to sell it. So we came up with the mantra sales fixes everything. And in the process of sales fixes everything, we focus predominantly on how to get somebody to buy our product in a box in 30 seconds or less, no matter what it is. But most importantly, when they do, it has to be profitable, right? Because vanity is revenue, and who cares? Profit is sanity. It's what we keep in our bank account that most matters the most. It pays ourselves and pays other people, etc. And we discover that really in the end, the products that sell on Amazon do best for brands that want to be more profitable and not about vanity number of units you move at lower margins. And so I'll try to make up for that on volume, which is actually kind of an amateur thought process if you stop and think about it. The professional seller, the person who runs a company, the one who's ran profitable businesses to growth, says, well, profit becomes first. And then from profit, I can do more marketing. I can pay more people. I can power this engine further. And so we started setting a threshold of $12 or more in net profit per unit after all Amazon fees, sales, marketing, storage, etc. And after, tax and all things stacked on top, we have a cash in value that tells us how much we're actually getting pre-tax. And that tells us after all those fees, it has to be more than $12 a unit. So what does that tell you? Logically, common sense, if you just do the simple math in your head, you'll realize I can't sell a $12 product,
Right.
right? I can't sell a $20 product.
Right.
I can barely sell a $25 or a $30 product in this marketplace today. And that's where a lot of people make their mistake.
Yeah.
Yep. So they don't sell it with enough profitability to market the engine and pay themselves. They're thinking about volume will make up on the difference. But here's the fact. If I sell 1,000 units this month of a product and make $1 per unit, okay, I've made $1,000. But if I have to double my inventory in month 2, but I don't double my profit, what just happened?
Your negative cash flow.
You're a negative cash flow, right? So you cannot focus on the amount of units it moves unless you can validate the amount of profit that comes in. We developed a system called green light process to make sure that the products are green lit. They must have product and data and what we call a customer need or intent for that product that is already defined by Amazon, because we're not going to guess. We're not smart enough to tell the market what it wants. I just want the market to tell me, give me this product. It's like Jeff Bezos phoning me up and being, hey, Neil, sell this product in the market. You can't miss. It's already in demand. Right? I mean, who doesn't want that, right? So literally the data tells us sell these products. They are the most in demand. Of the $638 billion in sales, these are the products that Amazon wants you to sell. There's no guessing. So I just need to make sure they're profitable. When I do that, what happens is I become in line with a group of people running relevantly through the system, like you, who might be ordering a pair of shoes, who wants to start walking or is walking and ran your shoes out. You have a specific intent. You have a need. I want to get shoes. What you might say is, well, I want tennis shoes, but what you actually mean is I want walking shoes. And this big technical engine goes, oh, well, we believe based on other things she's doing, maybe she bought sportswear, she got a sports drink cup or whatever, she actually means walking shoes or running shoes. So I'm not going to show you tennis shoes or sports shoes. I'm going to show you walking shoes and running shoes. It's a very intelligent engine. It says, what's your intent? And you'll go, oh, yeah, I wanted walking shoes. But I typed in or I searched for tennis shoes, but what you really want is the intent. And this big AI system is basically helping adjust that. And when it does, it gives us data that tells us, well, that means the person wants a walking shoe. So I develop a walking shoe, right? And so when I do that, I become relevant.
Yeah.
Okay. The word is relevant. If your product, brand, marketing, and eventually the solution is not relevant to the customer, then the fear that I don't make any sales will be realized because you're not in relevancy with somebody who's coming to look at the system for, tennis shoes who wants actually walking shoes because you're actually selling sports shoes.
Right.
But what if the major demand is walking shoes? You see? So we got to get in line with what the engine wants. I don't want to tell it what it wants. I'm not smart enough. I think a lot of people come in and are like, "Here's my product. I have to sell this product." I'm like, "No, that's the stinking thinking. You got this all wrong. You want to say, what does the market want from me?" And when you do that and become relevant and your marketing is relevant and your message is relevant and there is a group of people, 24/7, 365 selling walking shoes, well, then I want to sell a walking shoe to them, right? I want to make that money while I'm sleeping. And when we unlocked that, it became very easy to discover that the engine will reward you with lots of traffic and clicks. And then it's our job to sell them. It's our job to convince them to buy our product versus somebody else. And that's where brand, copywriting, imaging, and a real big focus on selling the product to the demand that's there is actually more important than the product. Does that make sense?
It does, because you want those reviews, right? To get
I want those.
you
That's
wanna
the second most important thing, of course, is that I grade a great product, not a Me Too product, not something I believe is gonna break. So I'm gonna sample the product, we're gonna engineer the product. I've got products on my way to my house and partners right now that we're gonna be launching soon, and we're gonna put it through the test. We're gonna break this thing, we're gonna play with it, we're gonna ask for updates, we're gonna make sure the thing is great. But we've already proven we can sell the product. So now we just need to make sure we don't get negative reviews, that it becomes a great product so that someone will tell someone else about it and we build a great brand because great brands are not built off single products, right? They're built off a portfolio of products.
right. So what do we talk or what do we consider or say you were saying that you have a set profit margin you need to do.
Yes.
I do know people who were selling on Amazon and then there would be a competing product that was put up one
Correct.
penny less or two pennies less, and those products would end up kind of scoring higher on the original page. How do you get around that? Because
Well, yeah.
I feel like that's a fear people have. If I start selling there, they're just gonna copy it or find somebody else and it'll be priced just a little bit lower.
Yeah, just a little bit lower is fine. It really what you kind of described was more like an arbitrage. I'm on someone's listing and for a few pennies lower, they won the buy box instead of me. Well, when I'm a private label seller who has a business that has registered on Amazon, has brand registration, trademark, and intellectual property, I own the listing, which means I own the buy box. Okay.
Very, very different from somebody who just has a product to sell on. Like, I want to be very, very clear that if you want to become a quote Amazon seller with your product, that is different than what you are doing.
Right. We are a private label company who develops products who chose the Amazon as the first system to go
Right.
to prove and incubate that product in a customer demand market that is now 49% of all US e-commerce sales. So it's the largest marketplace in the largest segment with the largest amount of buyers, 200 million Prime members. So I go to that marketplace and I say, is this what the market wants from me? And if I can provide that as a private label company who owns the brand, owns the output, owns the supply chain to the manufacturing, then what ends up happening is that I control the ability to move that into other markets. I have an omni-channel multi-marketing opportunity to now go to maybe TikTok or retail or my own Shopify store. And when I prove which products are most in demand, it's a lot easier to have the copy, images, and understanding of who I'm selling to and what they want, and then take them into these other places. The other places beyond Amazon are actually a lot more technical in
Yeah.
nature. It's kind of like Android and iPhone. You love them for different reasons. People are extremely passionate about them. Personally, I like the iPhone because I can't screw up a whole lot about it. I used to have Androids, and it's like, well, you can do these updates and all this technical stuff and whatever. And it's like, dang, I don't want to do all that. I just want the thing to work. And some people love that, and that's cool. But if you get to places like your own website and stuff, all of a sudden you're responsible for all the split testing, the traffic, the organic traffic. You're responsible for the tracking, the marketing of the engine. And that means you need to do Facebook or Instagram or some other skill set you may have to adapt to get those people to actually see your product. Well, the first channel of Amazon, it kind of negates all that. They split test 1,200 times a year, right? They're running billions of dollars in sales. They have all of these customers built in for me to leverage to prove that I got a product and a brand that I can sell and take into additional channels. That's what a real holistic e-commerce company does, to be very clear.
Right.
Anybody who comes to me and says, well, I just sell on Amazon FBA private label, I said, great, that's your first sales channel. We need to keep expanding your business. You've got a going concern, but your business becomes stable when you put more sales channels into it, right? And you've got to put more sales channels into it. So we got to get you moving in these other locations. But you can run these businesses up to 7 figures on Amazon first to prove you have the market and segmentation before you move into other sales channels. So I want people to understand the holistic concept, not just Amazon FBA. A lot of people just talk about that. It's a keyword. It's great. It's cool. It has its problems. Okay, we can talk about those too. I'm not a total Amazon fanboy. There's some really jerky stuff I've seen in 12 years that kind of pisses me off, right? And there are definitely some things they can do better to help support the American customer base versus other countries overtaking a lot of the markets for certain areas that, they get away with murder and I'd get kicked off the platform. So some of this stuff I'm really hoping will change with even some of the negative aspects of about to say, like tariffs. That's a code word for negative response today when you bring that up, right? But when you do your profitability right, we can talk about how that works. But again, I'm not an Amazon fanboy. It's just a great place to take, aspiring entrepreneurs into a business model to find them traffic, to get people to see their product and be able to see it a lot because there's 8,600 units moving a minute on that system.
Yeah, I mean, what it sounds like is Amazon is also the testing ground for the market research that
It is an incubator.
yeah, it that's exactly what it is. So you're absolutely using it to do all of your market research, all of your
That's
testing.
right. I know the data the customer need, the intent, the language, the copy, the graphics, even what videos are working best. And as I start turning up 10, 25, 50, 100 units a day, I've understood I'm serving the market that wants me. And as long as I'm getting positive reviews to close that loop and I understand my product is as good as I think it is, and the customers respond, oh, yeah, we agree. It's as good as you think it is. Now I have an engine started, right? I got the first channel of the engine of my e-commerce empire, right? And if you do that right in 4 to 5 years, you can create generational time and wealth freedom. I've seen it happen multiple times.
Right.
I'm a byproduct of it. It took me a little longer, 18 years to an overnight success.
Is 18 years to an overnight success.
It's always everybody would be, yeah, it's so easy for you to say that, Neil. Yeah. No, I've been at this for a while.
All right, so yeah, so let's talk about some of the things about Amazon. So besides the pricing thing, I do know that you ship it to them. Then that means it's their warehouse space, right? You're not renting a warehouse, you're not doing those things, but they do have fees for just about all the things that they do to fulfill.
Yes.
Like on Prime, they pay for shipping. Do you have to pay them to pay for shipping on the
Well,
Prime?
it's part of what's called Amazon referral fees that are a part of that and FBA fees. So there's storage fees, referral fees, which are part of the 2 fees that they cost. We call it an Amazon burden. So you have to make sure you adjust that into your price. And then there's, of course, warehousing fees and things you have to kind of play into that. There's marketing fees, there's returns. So there is at least about 8 different things you need to make sure that you account for that are a burden of your cost of goods of selling 1 unit of that product. And I think a lot of people sort of miss that, where they think they can, again, make it up on volume. Some of these top selling products I know do, a dollar, $1.50, 33 cents, 50 cents in profit. I'm like, no way. That's terrible. But there's a lot of people who are playing into that market because of need or desire. Maybe they have a coach or they took a course or something. I got pushed into it. And I hope they're hearing me today if they're serious about doing this, because they really need to be selling products that are 50 and up in retail price point in order to hit the profitability that creates long-term success in their business.
Let's talk about that also because we know that there are break points where consumers need an extra second to hit, buy now or put in cart. And, $20 or so is a pretty easy decision making. Anything over $100 seems to be some consumer um, I guess, data that says it takes them maybe a little longer. Anything over 1,000 is another break point where it takes a little longer to make the sale. So you wanna be at about 50, and you're
50 to 500, because you'd be surprised. There are some products selling at $400 between 400 to 600 units a day.
Okay, so are those being purchased in that 30-second window like your $50 products are?
In some cases, they are. In other cases, they're not. But mostly it is because if someone is evaluating a $400 product, they usually have a referral, a direct relationship, or some other experience with that product before they show up to buy one on Amazon. In other words, the pre-sales cycle has already occurred in their mind. And what they're simply looking to do is answer three primary questions in their mind about which one they buy. And that doesn't always take very long, because a lot of the sales cycle prior to hitting Amazon is done. So when they show up, they're kind of like, oh, I wanted the XYZ and I'm willing to pay the $399, add to cart. Why? Because it might have a safety feature I want. It might be the one that allows me to go faster or cook better or create a hot meal for my family or whatever its outcome is. It has an emotional predestined opportunity to it, and they're simply looking for which one validates their, the conversation they're already having in their head. And that can happen in 30 seconds on Amazon. And those products are selling at high ends, right? We've launched a couple products in the 100, 200, 300 space that went to 2, 3,000 a day, right in within the first 10 days of launching them. It's not hard to do that at high end revenue, but we also have the profitability behind it, because now we're looking at products that have, 40 to 60% profit margins on the bottom line. So we have the margin in those products to now market them. And then as success comes, we can expand those product lines into second and third and fourth products. They start to widen out that brand. It's like if you buy an Apple Watch, you bought the iPad, the iMac, the iPhone, and then your wife bought one, your significant other, then your kids get one. We widen that pyramid out the bottom. We sell more of the same product in different packaging. There'll be different variations of size and shape and type, and the 4-quart and the 24-quart and the black one and whatever. And we simply just go down that pipeline. We keep filling that brand portfolio up. And what'll end up happening is if one takes off really well, the law of averages always kicks in. And the more products we launch, 4 or 5 products, 1 or 2 of them will take off and do more than all the other ones combined. But there is no way, even with known customer data that says, hey, sell this product, it's currently selling 50,000 units a year, that you can expect to do that in the first year. A lot of people get this locked into their head. Maybe it's desperation or fear or concern or need. But here's how it would work, okay? You would have a 12-month building cycle, whereby if you can deploy as much capital back into the business as possible, it will simply go faster in year 2, which we call the growth year, okay? Growth year leads to greater profitability, greater momentum, greater branding, more product line, more reviews, more minutia has come, like your snowball rolling down here. By year 3, you should be in scale between years 3 and 5. If you've done a great job, been profitable, and been smart with your marketing, you can become part of what I call the 8%, right? 8% are my people who make it past year 4 and 5. Why? Because 92% of businesses fail in years 4 through 5. You know what the main reasons are? I know some of the people on here might already know that.
Yeah, undercapitalization. Yeah, picking the wrong horses.
Undercapitalization, leveraging too much
Leverage.
capital into people or other systems, paying themselves too much without putting enough back in the business to see its growth potential. There are a number of factors, or just simply not having the knowledge accessible to overcome those problems that you're simply not aware of as they grow and scale. And as they grow and scale, the risk to reward ratio changes. And the difference between 1 and 5 million is systems and processes,
Oh, yeah.
right? 1 to 5 million is systems and processes. Okay. 0 to 1 million is your ability to just get in the market, keep testing until you find a product that really takes off. Not your first product, could be your 7th product test. It goes. And then you get into a position where you realize to go from 5 to 10 million or more, it is you. You are the one holding the business back with your risk to reward ratio. Those who can overcome that, take the next level of risk to capitalize whatever's needed, can see those businesses grow extremely large. But it's typically going to end up in the driver's seat, not the marketing, not the business growth. It is in the driver's seat to capitalize on that opportunity.
Yeah, and along the way too, and we did a series not too long ago about what we call skill ceilings, right? So when do you need a COO? When do you not know enough to be forward looking? You need a CFO to come in and kind of help you with those.
You really need outside, right? We have outside accounting, we have outside support, outside legal, we have resources we use that are outside to and support our growth systems. And we all have mentors to some degree. My mentors, have done a lot more in business than me. And so they challenge my mindset. as I think about what they're doing and where they're going and where do I see myself kind of fitting into this bigger abundance picture of opportunity. And if you get out of that scarcity mindset of thinking there's no good products and nobody makes money on these systems and, everyone's trying to scam you and all this other negative stuff you have in your head, if you can get over that and overcome the first hurdle, which is to start something in the e-com or other world, right? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter if you're going to go do real estate or something else. You just have to get past those problems and get in there and then realize, tenacity and perseverance are the winners. Those are not the smartest people in the book. I know some extremely smart people who tell you about how smart they are and then they do nothing.
Right.
And I know some average smart people who are pretty smart by their own rights, who just got in there and kept going when the other people didn't start or they gave up.
Right.
And their success has come off of their tenacity and perseverance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely like I love that you said this is like a 4 or 5 year
Oh, is it? Yeah.
runway. Yeah, because people think that, oh, I'm gonna start, Etsy or Shopify or and they see this as, well, if I didn't sell X within 90 days, then it must not be good, and they
They
don't.
have those what I call the Lambos, Lambo dreams of hopes, and hopium has been sold into this, and the scratcher lottery mindset mentality is kicking in. And that's cool. I get it. Leave it, use it as motivation, but just put it under the right amount of time, energy, and intention, right? And also dedicate the right amount of money required. Everyone wants to make millions for nothing. They want to go viral for nothing. They want, little effort to produce maximum result, and they get frustrated when they can't get it or someone else doesn't give it to them, right? And that is a mindset that will always lose at the end of the day. I'm sorry, it just will. If you are going to get in the business, the bar is extremely low for anybody to get into the online world now. I started when there was no internet.
Right. Right.
Right. And now you're looking at all these tools and AI systems and the amount of traffic we have online now and the amount of commerce that's coming along, the fact that it's going to switch here in about 10 to 20 years to being basically the most amount of online shopping will flip over retail and that will invert, right? That is coming. And so you just have to kind of put yourself in that mind frame of like, do I want to be a victim of the market or do I want to be in abundance and do I want to, don't go out and attack it and see what I can come up with. Just have a realistic expectation of the time, energy, attention, and money it takes to actually do it. Don't sell that short. If you think it's going to cost you 10 grand, double it. If you think you want to go really big at 50 to 100, double that too. And then you'll have a realistic amount of time and money and runway to get you through the successful product so you can capitalize them so your dreams can become a reality. Can people hit one hit wonders? Sure. I've seen it happen. But it rarely does it happen on the first product.
Right. Well, the one hit, I always think about customer buy cycle. Like, how often are they repurchasing from you certain things, right? So certain durable goods they're going to buy once, or maybe they'll buy for gifts or whatever. But speaking of the one hit wonder, I love the Snoop on the Stoop that was really big last year. That took on the Elf on the Shelf, and it had the doll with the gold chain and the green tracksuit. And how many times are people going to buy that though, right? So you have these one hit wonder novelty things that maybe aren't, something that you could sustain, something like an e-commerce brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that, there's this staying power which in there and you serve the market and you give the market what it wants. And it sounds like as you've developed these portfolios and you've tweaked some of the products and offered in a different way, you have been able to do two things, and that is also to kind of capture that rebuying market and not just the referral market.
That's right. Yeah, it's not the first customer acquisition that so many people think it is, and because of that, they think more volume and vanity, right? When I'm thinking of a customer acquisition, I'm thinking, can I make it as near profitable as possible, but can I provide them with additional value that wants to make them come back and buy something else and ask me what else I have, buy more of it. Maybe I can provide some secondary product to the primary one that creates more of a subscribe and save or a subscription-based opportunity where maybe every month or every 3 months or every 6 months they buy that product from me so they become a part of my engine. That is a very big difference between just flipping products from retail arbitrage and shop your way to wealth. These are all very short-term opportunities. They're side hustle, hobby business opportunities. It is very difficult to grow them into a real going concern that doesn't require, hundreds of thousands of warehouse and 12 employees. Ask me how I know. Because you can go down that path and it turns into a nightmare and you're going to be moving a lot of volume with not the profitability you think. We can run 5, 7, 8-figure companies with a single person and an operator and a couple of VAs. The capacity for growth is so great that we're going to see here very soon the first, individual company operating at $1 billion because of AI and other systems that are moving this digital and physical product world forward. It's just a matter of time now. It took them 20 years to have the first miracle hour, $1 million on QVC. I
Yeah.
actually know the lady who did that. And they did it in a few years on TikTok.
Yeah. And
Right? Last year, $1 million hour in July 2024 on TikTok,
is
$1 million in sales in 1 hour. So the systems by which you think abundantly you have to realize I can carve out a product in a segment, a niche somewhere in there that sells 25 units a day. Once you understand that with the profitability, you can start making $300-400 a day in profit, and you can build that growth. And I mean every day, not just 5 days a week and not on the weekends. It's a 24/7 machine that you can stack on top of. And once you learn those skills, you just keep stacking on top of it. You get better and better and better at it the farther you go. It just takes focus, right? Take a certain amount of focus.
right, yeah, and it is the focus. People like that quick win, but it's not sustainable necessarily, to just have the one, like you said, the one hit wonder. So I do wanna touch a little bit on, like, tariffs and things that are people or that have people in the retail sector and in some other sectors feeling a little bit, nervous. I wanna say it was a week ago or so where the, TikTok and China manufacturers started trying to sell direct to consumer. Things like some of the luxury items, like, I believe I saw someone who was the manufacturer for, like, Prada or Hermes, talking about, "Oh, we don't have to do it this way. We can now go straight to you guys." A lot of that is not American made, and some of that hit the European Union because of the made in France and the made in Italy kind of things, but
Yeah.
are you seeing anything, from your perspective that is gonna change your approach to how you're selling online based on what these other market forces are doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, there are those forces out there that can control and those that we cannot. We can't control a tariff situation that I personally believe is going to put America in a better position, even though we're having some suffrage right now. I understand that we've got some tens of thousands of extra dollars in inventory tariff fees that we didn't expect to get hit by. We have spent the better part of the last 5 years moving a lot of our stuff out of the China supply chain or, just making sure we didn't have human rights violations and all the other nonsense that goes behind the scenes. You have to be very careful. We have somebody on the street there in China who works with us and is bilingual and helps us make sure to keep our product lines very clean. But the majority of our stuff has been moving out of that country. We had to start that way many years ago, but now there's so many different locations across the world that are coming to the table and saying, "Hey, we'll take your zero tariff," like Vietnam and Cambodia and Taiwan and India and other places where a lot of stuff can be manufactured across the board. And even American-based companies that are looking at it going, "Hey, it may make sense to wrap up that shuttered plant that was setting over here, and in 6 months we can start producing some of that goods too." We just, as they see the economics change, it makes sense for entrepreneurs to step in and deploy that capital, and I'm seeing that already happening. So I'm optimistic. It's just a bit of change that's required, and we've gone through many of those changes in the years I've done this. We had this little thing that happened in 2020 that was a bit of a hiccup. You might have heard of it.
Buying online than
Yeah, yeah.
Costco, right?
It was crazy hyper growth, right? There's two things that happen that most people don't understand, and those who are kind of new to the business and dealing with it now don't understand what we went through during that period and why I'm not worried about it right now. Okay,
Mhm.
when 2019 came along, December of 2019, it was 4,800 for a 40-foot container landed in America. Okay, and we can get them pretty quick. By December 2020, we saw 10 years of hyper growth in 3 months. Right, when everybody got locked down, they all went online, and they had a lot of time, so they spent a lot of money. And we also saw something else occur due to supply chain, okay? Those $4,800 containers that were just a few months prior to that, at that price point, jumped to 15 to 25,000 per container.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're doing the math and you're going about tariffs today and you realize the tariffs that are on that right now, those are nothing compared to the tariffs we paid in 2021 and it started to come down by 2022. Okay. By coming down, it came down below 10,000. Eventually in 23, 24, it got back down to 5 and literally it was around 3,800 before the tariff thing kicked in. So it was back on around. So just looking at this from a rational perspective, if you are running at margin, if you are not understanding the fundamentals of business and hardening yourself and your business for longevity, and maybe you've overinflated and not paying attention, then you're going to end up being victimized by the market changes. I saw it happen, and a lot of companies fell out during those years because they couldn't keep product moving. They didn't have enough, and then they couldn't buy more when they ran out of money.
Right.
So when I hear tariff screaming today, what I hear is a lot of people yelling about something they don't know about, getting inflamed by media, by other people who don't know what they're talking about, and turning it into a very large thing. And why? Because we have time to focus on it now, because we weren't focused on the pandemic stuff that was happening before, when the rest of us in business were focused on the supply chain, logistics, and product move, and everyone else was focused on that stuff. And since that's not happening, now everybody's screaming about tariffs. And I'm like, okay, but this is ridiculous. Get off the news, turn this nonsense down, understand what's actually happening, right? The physical product movement is continuing, even though it's slowed down. The accessibility of product has not changed, it's simply moving to different locations. This always happens. Money moves. It's like a river, it flows. If you can't flow with it, that's actually the problem,
Right.
right? And I can't flow with it to a certain degree where it goes back above 25,000, right? But we can deal with it in line. We can deal with it with price. We can deal with it with shipments. We can deal with it changing locations for manufacturing. We can deal with negotiations with our suppliers and saying, hey, China, you're hurting. If you don't shut down your manufacturing that we're working with you on and you're willing to keep it going, we'll keep buying the products. Just work with us.
Yeah.
Work with us on the pricing. Work with us on the legit. You want to stay in business. We want to stay going. Don't shut us off. We're not shutting you off. So there are ways that this is being negotiated behind the scenes. So that is a mid-market business cap and above that is doing that. It's the mid to lower cap below with screaming about all the tariffs. They were always running at margin. They were trying to compete with the Chinese sellers from the very beginning, and they're going to lose. They're going to lose because they're direct from manufacturer, and you can't beat them if you're a middleman. If you're buying your product from somebody else, it's not direct, and you don't have the IP and property value of that, and you can't negotiate because you aren't in a position of power to negotiate with those kinds of things. And yeah, you're going to end up victimized by the market. And it's very unfortunate. I don't want to see some of those businesses close down. I don't like hearing some of the things I hear on there because I think it's disheartening for those who might focus on it. And I have empathy for that, right? I didn't get to this place in business because I was handed this business. My dad spent 30 years as a mechanic, and we worked, and money, it was a four-letter word in our house,
Right.
right? I worked for everything I wanted to get as a kid and eventually as into an adult, to get and learn the school of hard knocks and get along until I finally got, enough knowledge to get into a startup company called Sprint, PCS, when they launched the first mobile phone. And then for my hard work and effort during those 4 or 5 years I was there, I got picked up by IBM, and they hired me out of Sprint to go work with IBM. And so, it ran into bankruptcy later on because I made a stupid business decision, ended up too leveraged into a company and had to go bankrupt and start over, right? So at that point, now I've rebuilt where I'm at with different boundaries, different thresholds, different fail safes, different people, to make sure that I control it correctly. So I understand what it means to run into those troubles. I understand what it means to run into financial troubles. But I see a lot of people who are not really truly taking the time to learn the fundamentals of business, find out where their boundaries are, and instead they're just yelling at the wind to change. And the wind doesn't change. It blows wherever it wants to go.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the businesses that you built, the private label and using FBA and then doing the omni-channel,
Yep.
again, you've been very honest about the runway and that there are a lot of considerations, but I really, really appreciate you addressing that the e-commerce realm doesn't operate, when I say differently in business, it means if you don't make a profit, you're not going to make it, whichever channel that you sell on,
Yep.
whether it's
Correct.
wholesale or retail. And I do believe that there is that huge misconception that, well, I'll just sell to more people because I have so many more people in the audience.
Market more. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, business first principles, I mean, apply across the board. So where can people find you, stalk you online, more about you, maybe set up a call if they're interested in working in this model, which is
Learning more about it.
really different. Yeah.
So I have a podcast too called the High Voltage Business Builders Podcast, which is on all the major channels, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. You can check that out where we talk about this kind of business and others, wealth preservation and growing and omni-channel sales and e-commerce, Amazon, and all kinds of things in between that we discuss with High Voltage Business Builders. You can go to voltagedm.com. That's Voltage Digital Marketing, voltagedm.com. There's a presentation. I have my book on there. That's also on Amazon, Almost Automated Income with FBA. And you can check that out as well. It's the philosophy and the strategy as well as the plan of building an e-commerce business. It's not tactical, so don't expect to read it with like, hey, open your browser, do this. No, it is actually the strategy. There's 15 different chapters of people I interviewed on my podcast who are experts in the different areas of finance and research and marketing and retention and business and finances and other things. And they're interviewed in there along with case studies and resources. So if you're a reader, that's a great one. If you like presentations, there's a free presentation on my website that myself and Kevin Harrington is one of my mentors and helped me write the foreword for my book. He was a former Shark Tank and as seen on TV guy.
Yeah.
We went through our, plan there, and you can watch that presentation that explains more about what we do. And of course, you'll reach me personally. I don't have a sales team. That's not how this works. We're a mentoring, coaching, and operational company, and we let operators come along with us for 12 months to learn how to build themselves under our playbook with the specific intent that when they do that, my goal is to help them get to a saleable asset in 4 or 5 years because I'm the first one under a first rights of refusal who wants to look to acquire that brand away from them. So we have a private equity group called Patriot Growth Capital that is a veteran-backed, veteran-funded, veteran-operated initiative to buy and build companies that veterans can be employed under.
I love that. All right. So we're going to put all that down inside the show notes, including the link to the book, the link to the podcast. And I really hope you tune in and reach out with any questions or, this is fascinating. This is a different side of what you see on social media about the Amazon selling get rich quick arbitrage. That is so pervasive on TikTok and YouTube. And I really, really appreciate you coming on here and telling people, well, actually, there is a way to do this, but it's not going to look like that.
It's going to be building a real business, something of real value for you and your family, right?
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Don. You've been a wonderful host.
All right. I appreciate that too. I'll see y'all next time on the next episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to DawnKKennedy.com, and you can now check us out on YouTube as well as, of course, any of your favorite platforms that host podcasts. Take care.